Okay, here's the complaint. You see that this has been filed in the Circuit Court of the 12th Judicial Circuit in and for Sarasota County, Florida. So this has been filed by Joseph Petito, Nicole Schmidt, by and through their undersigned counsel, and filed within the complaint against the defendants Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, and in support thereof. So this is what they allege. They say that this is an action for damages that exceed $30,000 exclusive of prejudgment interest, costs, and attorney's fees. Now note, it says that it exceeds $30,000. So that doesn't mean that they are only going for $30,000. They're going for at least $30,000. And this is probably just that number probably has something to do with which type of court that this would be eligible to fit into, right? Because you have some courts that are, or most all jurisdictions, I would say. I hate saying all because it always scares me, but more than likely, all jurisdictions have some kind of small claims court. In California, if I remember from studying for the bar exam, it was the limit is like $5,000 or something. But I did just watch a video of Uncivil Law and Attorney Tom going over Reddit memes, and they mentioned how I think in Texas it's like $20,000. So that $30,000 might just be the amount that is required in Florida to keep this complaint out of the small claims court, meaning that you have all kinds of rules on discovery and that kind of stuff. Anyhow, venues proper in Sarasota County. Okay, we can kind of skip over that a little bit because we're talking about how, all right, Joseph Petito's from Vero Beach, Florida, Nicole Schmidt's from Blue Point, New York, and then the Laundries are from North Point, Florida as well. Brian Laundrie and Gabrielle Petito became engaged to marry on or about July 2nd, 2020. On July 2nd, 2021, Brian Laundrie and Gabrielle Petito left New York in a van owned by Gabrielle Petito to take a trip to the Western United States, which was expected to last for several months. Prior to the trip taken by Gabrielle Petito and Brian Laundrie, Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt and Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie had a cordial relationship. Gabrielle Petito had hopes of becoming a travel influencer, a van lifer, and document her cross-country travels on social media sites such as YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. During the course of the aforementioned trip, Gabrielle Petito called her family almost daily, including her parents, Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt, and her siblings. The last communication that Gabrielle Petito had with Joseph Petito was on August 21st, 2021. The last communication that Nicole Schmidt had with Gabrielle Petito was on August 27th, 2021. It is believed that on August 27th, 2021, Brian Laundrie murdered Gabrielle Petito. The cause of her death was blunt force injuries to the head and neck with manual strangulation. Ugh. This live stream is probably going to be demonetized now. That's fine. Whatever. Gabrielle Petito was 22 years of age at the time of her death. After Brian Laundrie murdered Gabrielle Petito, Brian Laundrie sent text messages back and forth between his cell phone and Gabrielle Petito's cell phone in an effort to hide the fact that she was deceased. On August 27th, 2021, it is believed that Brian Laundrie sent a text to Nicole Schmidt in which he referred to Gabrielle Petito's grandfather, Stan, by name. Gabrielle Petito never called her grandfather by his name. And I know that was something that was talked about quite a bit when people were trying to figure out what had happened in this. You know, obviously this was like a nationwide developing story back in, I guess, it was back in really September. It is believed and therefore averred that on or about August 28th, 2021, Brian Laundrie advised his parents, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, that he had murdered Gabrielle Petito. Okay. On that same date, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie spoke with attorney Steve Bertolino and sent him a retainer on September 2nd, 2021. Okay. So it's interesting. I'm curious to know how they know that, or what makes them think that Brian Laundrie told his parents on August 28th that he had murdered her. They don't need to show that. They don't need to go into that level of detail in this complaint, but I'm just personally curious. On August 30th, 2021, Brian Laundrie sent a text message from Gabrielle Petito's cell phone to Nicole Schmidt stating that there was no service in Yosemite Park in an effort to deceive Nicole Schmidt into believing that Gabrielle Petito was still alive. On September 1st, 2021, Brian Laundrie returned to the home of his parents, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, driving Gabrielle Petito's van. Interesting. So interesting that Christopher Laundrie, so kind of looking back on the timeline. So on September 2nd, they had sent a retainer to the new attorney. But back on the 28th, they had already spoken with attorney Steve Bertolino. Interesting. Okay. So moving back down to where I was before. At this point in time, so back to September 1st, there was no contact between Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt on the one hand, and Christopher Laundrie and Roberta on the other. From August 27th, 2021 until September 19th, 2021, when Gabrielle Petito's remains were found at the Spread Creek dispersed camping area in Wyoming, plaintiffs were extremely distraught and were attempting to locate Gabrielle Petito. While Gabrielle Petito's family was suffering, the Laundrie family went on vacation to Fort DeSoto Park on September 6th through the 7th, 2021. In an effort to avoid any contact with Nicole Schmidt on or about September 10th, 2021, Roberta Laundrie blocked Nicole Schmidt on her cellular phone such that neither phone calls nor texts could be delivered, and she blocked her on Facebook. On September 14th, 2021, with full knowledge that Gabrielle Petito had been murdered by their son, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, through their lawyer, issued the following statement. Quote, "It is our understanding that a search has been organized for Miss Petito in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. On behalf of the Laundrie family, it is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and that Miss Petito is reunited with her family," unquote. On September 16th, 2021, attorney Richard Safford, on behalf of Gabrielle Petito's family, issued a letter to Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie as follows. Okay, and this is multiple paragraphs for anybody that's listening on the podcast version. "We are writing this letter to ask you to help find our beautiful daughter. We understand you are going through a difficult time and your instinct to protect your son is strong. We ask you to put yourselves in our shoes. We haven't been able to sleep or eat and our lives are falling apart. We believe you know the location of where Brian left Gabby. We beg you to tell us. As a parent, how could you let us go through this pain and not help us? As a parent, how can you put Gabby's younger brothers and sisters through this? Gabby lived with you for over a year. She was going to be your daughter-in-law. How can you keep her location hidden? You were both at Jim and Nicole's house. You were both so happy that Brian and Gabby got engaged and were planning to spend their lives together. Please, if you or your family have any decency left, please tell us where Gabby is located. Tell us if we are even looking in the right place. All we want is Gabby to come home. Please help us make that happen." End quote. Despite the fact that Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt implored Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie to tell them if their daughter was alive, and if she was not, where her remains were located, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie refused to respond to either Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt or law enforcement. So far as I'm reading this, my first thought is if they have I I don't know. I just my first thought is that my advice would be to not talk to the media, not talk to law enforcement. So if there is any information that Brian Laundrie did give his parents in that time, it is not privileged, but I don't think they're under any kind of a duty to provide that information. Because also at the same time, that would incriminate their son. If they happen to know where her remains are, there's only one way that they would know where her remains are. Because they weren't there when it happened, right? Anyhow. So the thought that's kind of bubbling up is under what duty, what responsibility did they have to give information when they weren't the ones that were there when things happened? Okay, back to the complaint. Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie instructed that all contacts were to be made through their attorney, Stephen Berlino, and he issued no comment when asked about Gabrielle Petito's well being. So the fact that they said that they weren't talking to anybody unless they were talking through their attorney, yes, that's appropriate. That's fine. I see nothing wrong with that so far. While Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt were desperately searching for information concerning their daughter, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie were keeping the whereabouts of Brian Laundrie secret, and it is believed were making arrangements for him to leave the country. Okay. So that's maybe not so good because, uh, although in the conversations that we were having around this time, he wasn't under any requirement to stay in the country. Because remember, he was a if I remember correctly, he was a person of interest, but that was it. I don't believe that there is any sort of an obligation for someone who is a person of interest to stay within a certain jurisdiction. Okay. Back to the complaint again. Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie knew of the mental suffering and anguish of Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt and knew that they could alleviate, at least in part, such mental suffering and anguish by disclosing what they knew about the well being and the location of the remains of Gabrielle Petito, yet they repeatedly refused to do so. So, okay, so what? So they knew that they could, but they didn't. In doing so, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie acted with malice or great indifference to the rights of Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt. But the question is, what are those rights? What are they alleging that those rights are? So I've already got some questions here that are not being answered so far, but we'll continue because maybe they'll be answered as we go on. And I do see in the chat that people are saying, what about a moral obligation? That's the thing, is that what we're talking about here is a civil lawsuit, and morality and law oftentimes they do have a uh, an overlap between the two, right? But that's not always the case. Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie exhibited extreme and outrageous conduct, which constitutes behavior under the circumstances, which goes beyond all possible bounds of decency and is regarded as shocking, atrocious, and utterly intolerable in a civilized community. So, what the allegations, like, they haven't exactly come out and said it, but this is starting to sound like an intentional infliction of emotional distress claim. So I'm going to finish this because we're almost to the end of it, and then I'm going to go into the elements of intentional infliction of emotional distress and that kind of stuff. So, okay. As a direct and proximate result of the willfulness and maliciousness of Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, Joseph Petito and Nicole Smith had been caused to suffer pain and suffering, mental anguish, inconvenience, loss of capacity for enjoyment of life experienced in the past and to be experienced in the future. Wherefore, plaintiffs Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt respectfully request the Honorable Court enter judgment in their favor and against the defendants, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, and award them just compensation for the damages they have suffered, together with costs and such other relief as this Honorable Court deems just and appropriate. Okay, so we're going to go, so that's the end of it. And we're going to go into what is intentional infliction of emotional distress and negligent infliction of emotional distress, because it seems like that's kind of what they're getting at here, basically saying that they could have done some stuff, and by doing that they could have alleviated the intense pain and suffering that they were going through during this period of time. So an important point to note, I guess, here is the fact that what they're not alleging is they're not alleging that his parents are somehow responsible for Gabby Petito's death. That's not what they're alleging. They're not alleging that somehow she could have survived through any of this by the fact that they gave, if they had given information that it would have saved her life or something like that. There's nothing like that. They're not even alleging that they had some kind of a duty or a responsibility to give information, to supply information. They haven't alleged that either. All they said was they could have and they didn't.